Hello, it's me, Brian of London, going live while driving home from work. It's Sunday here in Tel Aviv, and obviously everybody's talking about the horrific events yesterday in Pittsburgh and the murder of Jews. That's what it is, it's murder. Now we can say it's murder because I guess we don't have to presume this guy's innocence at this point. If this was the British legal system, we shouldn't be making presumptions. But the Americans are a bit more open about this kind of stuff, and it would appear that the guy that they've got in custody is pretty much the guy who went into a synagogue and murdered people. I can't see your comments because my phone is to my side and I'm driving. This immediately made me think of an attack that happened here in Jerusalem in 2014, where two Arabs, obviously, went into a synagogue and started hacking up the congregants with, I think one was using a meat cleaver, and I think they killed 4 before a Druze police officer arrived and shot them and was injured while doing that, and then some more police came. And the attack was stopped eventually by this Druze policeman, who died later of his wounds too. And coincidentally, it wasn't long after that I found myself in a synagogue in Jerusalem, also in the similar neighbourhood to where this attack had taken place. And many of the congregants were wearing their guns on their hips. That's just how it is. And in fact, I seem to remember after that attack in Jerusalem, the mayor of Jerusalem had instructed anybody who did have a weapon and a license to carry it, which if you've got a weapon, you've got a license to carry it here. And as far as I know, there's no such thing as concealed carry in Israel. The recommendation is if you've got a gun, you show you've got a gun. The mayor of Jerusalem, after that attack and similar stabbing attacks all over the place, had actually told people who had guns it was their civic duty to carry their gun at all times. That's the nature of the Jewish society here in Israel, which is that we're all up for defending ourselves. We're not going to be slaughtered again. And, that appears to be the horrible situation in America. American Jews feel safer. They just do. What we've been living through, the experience of Jews in Israel for the 70 years since the establishment of the State of Israel, is not the same as the lived experience of Jews in America. It's not that they're complacent. One doesn't ever blame victims. The responsibility for this attack lies with the guy who went into a synagogue carrying guns and started shooting people. That's the guy. And it does seem that law enforcement got there pretty quick and managed to stop this guy at the cost of injuries to some police officers as well. All in all, pretty horrific. Obviously, all the political stuff, you just can't. It's not to be used one way or another. It is what it is, which is what I seem to remember Jerry Seinfeld saying a lot in his comedy set when he came here to Israel. It is what it is. People hate Jews, and they hate Jews. There's a whole range of reasons why people justify their Jew hatred, and there's a whole different set of groups who hate Jews today. Some of them, like this chap, would appear to be from what we call far right, the real far right. The real Nazi-derived, Jews control the media, Jews control the banks, that kind of far right. The descendants of the believers in the learned protocols of the elders of Zion. Oh boy, people are getting upset here. That's one contingent of modern Jew hatred. And I've said for a long time, because I've come across these people online, I've spoken with them, I've watched their videos more than most. Whilst they exist, I don't think the numbers of them are huge, and I tend to regard them, even though, you know, even after such a horrific action as this, which claimed lives in a terrible way and is an absolute enormous tragedy for the community and all the people who know those directly affected. And believe me, you know, it's only a month since I lost a friend here in Israel to a terrorist attack. But in terms of sheer threat to the ongoing future of the Jewish people, I don't regard neo-Nazis like this chap as the threat. And the reason is because these guys don't hold institutional power anywhere. As much as the complete lunatics in America would say that Trump is a neo-Nazi or a white supremacist sympathizer, and he's clearly not. He's clearly the most philo-Semitic, pro-Jewish president America's ever had or had in recent memory, that's for sure. He's taken steps that strengthen Israel, I am absolutely sure, like moving the embassy and so forth. No, Trump is not one of these guys. These guys, like the one who went into this synagogue, they have no institutional power. They have no political power of any real description. David Duke, what power does he hold? He has power over his YouTube followers, and that's about it. They don't really control much of the culture. I mean, they've got their YouTube channels, but every time I look at those and I look in the comment section, it's an echo chamber. Whether it's growing or not, I don't really know. Maybe it's growing a little bit, maybe not. But I see the same names crop up over and over again on their YouTube channels. They just spend a lot of time in... Well, hello, it's Brian of London back again. Something seemed to cut me off whilst I was driving earlier. So I couldn't get back on because I was driving. So I'll try and pick up where I left off. I think where I was in explaining my thoughts about this horrific synagogue attack in Pittsburgh, I was trying to explain why, whilst it's totally horrific what happened, why I am not a believer that the far-right Jew hatred, what led this man, these conspiracy theories that have been around for centuries of Jews ruling the world, and that school of classical Jew hatred, the Hitlerian type, the protocols of the elders of Zion, the kinds of people that follow that just do not hold institutional power today. They don't run anything. They are not politically in charge of anything significant. They are in charge of their own YouTube followings. And what I was saying before I was cut off was that when you look at the far-right YouTube channels that exist, the real alt-right, the far-right, the David Duke-loving people who believe that Jews band together and we work behind the scenes to put the white person down, that school of thought, they influence each other. They speak to their own echo chambers. I see the same names crop up on the same YouTube channels, interviewing each other over and over and over again. So whilst they are able to generate a guy like this horrific monster who goes off and murders Jews in a synagogue, what I don't see them doing is holding the power, the control of any countries or any large media organizations. And that, I'm afraid, is where we come onto the far left, which is full of Jew hatred. They call it sometimes anti-Zionism, but it is Jew hatred. And, of course, Islamic Jew hatred. And between those two, that is where serious institutional power rests. They hold countries. Iran is run by Jew haters, and it is a country with the power and the capacity of an entire country. That's why as horrible as it is to speak of this just after an event like that in Pittsburgh, the event in Pittsburgh does not represent an existential threat to the Jewish people. It might make Jews in America feel unsafe, and they should feel unsafe, I'm afraid. We've been feeling unsafe in Israel ever since Israel was founded. And I think it is that feeling of unsafeness that actually drives us to achieve great things here. It's just one of the paradoxes of life, which is that when people get too comfortable, they stop achieving. People under pressure achieve greater things. And that's what I see as the Jews, the difference between Jews in the diaspora who have got weak. Now, European Jews certainly don't feel safe, but American Jews have not really been touched by this kind of massive real proper violent anti-Semitism. I really hope it doesn't grow, and I hope Donald Trump and the entire American apparatus of state can clamp down on it, but one just doesn't know. The best response really is to arm oneself and to be aware of one's surrounding. That's what we know from Israel. But once again, the reason I don't go overboard worrying about far-right neo-Nazi anti-Semitism today is purely because it doesn't hold institutional power. It is not holding institutional power in the universities. Those are held by the far-left Jew haters. And it doesn't hold institutional power in any particular countries. Perhaps one could have said maybe Golden Dawn in Greece, but this is pretty marginal at best. No, far-right anti-Jew feeling, far-right Jew hatred today is limited to YouTube channels, Gab, various bits of the internet and people who read Stormfront, I'm afraid. Then they are not the big threat to Jews worldwide. Iran getting a nuclear bomb is a huge threat. Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas, these are huge threats to the existence of the Jewish people. So that kind of concludes. It's not great having to split a Periscope into two, and I'll have to stitch it together later to put it on YouTube, I guess. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'm Brian of London, still here in Israel, still waiting to see if the Americans managed to let Tommy Robinson in. Very interested in that story. I'll keep following that and keep informed. And catch you the next time I Periscope. Bye-bye.